This is our second show of Dead On, and we're lucky tonight to have as our guest John Dawson, who's done dozens of Chapter 11 cases. And we're going to talk about Subchapter 5, which is a new legislation that just came in last February of 2020. And what that does is it makes Chapter 11 a little more accessible to small business. So, John, why don't you give us a little rundown on this Subchapter 5 and what are the differences between Subchapter 5 as opposed to doing the full-blown Chapter 11?
Sure. Well, I mean, first of all, Chapter 11 is available to all entities and or businesses that want to reorganize versus the need to liquidate. What we call a Chapter 7 that people normally wouldn't know, but a Chapter 11 is a specific title for reorganizing a business, which means essentially that you are feeling pressure from all of your creditors or specific creditors, or in the environment of COVID, you're feeling pressure from, a lack of ability to operate at full potential or at all. You've still got debts hanging over your head. You're not sure how long the legislature of the state might keep your landlord off your back. I mean, landlords have rights too. Ultimately, these things are going to come to a head, and business operators especially for this subject matter, use the tools of the bankruptcy court, and at the very least explore what the bankruptcy court could do for them, and a bankruptcy petition. And that essentially is to reduce your debt and continue operating the business. And you have nearly complete control with specific limitations. You do, so the Subchapter 5 is, as you said, Mark, something of a streamlined reorganization that includes a plan of reorganization, and the timelines are essentially the same. But in order to take advantage of it, the details are not as in-depth. So you have a shorter period to decide what to do and what aspects of the plan or into the plan you would like to put them, so before you propose it. That I think is limited now to 60 days, whereas typically it's about 120 days or even 300 days in terms of deciding what to do with leases and how you want to pay. People like landlords are in a much stronger position, especially for commercial entities or businesses, if you like. And so their rights are fairly protected, but still, once you file a petition in bankruptcy, you can accomplish a great deal regarding pre-petition. That's everything, all the months of rent that you're behind on or missed aspects of or entirely. You can reduce those amounts tremendously. And you can also use this bankruptcy as a tool in helping to negotiate with your landlord. But in addition to your landlord, you're going to have all kinds of other creditors, likely. Now, the amounts really don't matter, because whatever it is, the whole plan is to work out something that's fair and equitable to each class of creditors, which means you've got secured creditors, people that perhaps loaned you money and they took a secured interest in some collateral, whether it's your business equipment or your accounts payable, accounts receivable, things like that. Those are secured creditors, and unsecured creditors are people that you deal with routinely in trade, your vendors, and you've got your employees who are a higher class of creditors, but essentially, with some exceptions and additions, those are what examples of classes of creditors are.
Well, and you forgot taxes, John. Taxes are.
Oh yeah, well, I was giving examples, but hey, yeah, I mentioned taxes earlier, didn't I?
Taxes are like, I think they always the priority. You always got to pay the tax cut.
Yeah, and generally, I mean, yeah, taxes are a problem, but you'd be surprised. The taxing authorities will work with you,
Yeah, but I'm just
unless,
saying
of course,
that's really because some people get behind on like their employee taxes and that kind of thing. And
yeah, when your business can't operate again, like in this environment of COVID, you must, likely seek relief. Because if you wait for the legislature to do it for you, you might not like what you find that, once they lift any restrictions on evictions and other aspects of this, or they're going to start forcing people into bankruptcy, and you'd rather go into bankruptcy voluntarily as
well,
opposed
also
to
I think
involuntarily.
if you're in a situation where, let's say you're a restaurant and you're doing takeout and that's bringing you 70% of the revenue you were making in previous years, right? Well, you're probably hanging in there, right? But let's
Sure,
say, that you're only making 30% of your revenues of previous years, and every month you're going deeper in debt. You probably should talk to us and at least plan for the future in case things don't turn around. There's certain, there's no definite number comparing last year's and this year's. But in general, when you declare a bankruptcy, the trustee wants to know what's the reason for this. Was it medical bills? Was it some kind of catastrophe? Was there a fire without insurance? Well, here you've got the COVID-19, which is, a reasonably good rationalization. You can show them the books and say, we used to have people sitting down and dining and drinking bottles of wine. Now we have takeout. No one's taking out bottles of wine, right? And we're making
sure.
30, 40% or 20% of our revenues. And, we had to lay off a lot of staff. So it's me and my wife doing the cooking, so it's a different setup now. And I think people have to understand that, you want to plan ahead for these things. You can't see what the future is going to hold, but you can kind of plan ahead and keep your options open. And I think we got to kind of wrap up here, and we'll come on and talk about bankruptcy and subchapter 5 and chapter 11 again, because it's a big, big subject. But tonight, I just want to thank you, John, for coming on and giving us, your thoughts on what a potential bankruptcy client's got to think about, and when they should start considering their options and which the way to go. So I thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome. There's a lot more information to give, so invite them back
Okay, yeah.
or
So
invite them over.
yeah, so feel free to send us an email and check out our website, and we'd like to help you out, and just explore the possibility, and then you have an idea of what your options are. So when the day happens, you have to make a decision. You've got a couple of options on the table, and you're not stuck in a position where you don't know what to do because you haven't had a chance to do a little bit of pre-planning on this kind of situation. Okay, so thanks very much, John, and good night, and we'll see you next time.
You're welcome, Mark. Thanks for having me.